The independent documentary The War on Doping is under production and will be ready for the international TV market during the spring of 2012, prior to the London Olympics. What makes young athletes risk their lives and take dangerous substances just to become number one? There are, of course, some easy answers to that. But how come it just goes on the way it does? When sports fans, the media, and even the athletes themselves hate cheating in sports? Or do they? Who knows what is really going on? And why don't management and athletes take a clearer stand for clean sports? The questions are many.
A major...
Now, for the first time, the man who started it all is ready to tell the true story behind the fight against doping in sports. He's been fighting it for over 40 years, and at the age of 80, Professor Arne Ljungqvist is still an active and leading member of several international organizations and travels the world at a furious tempo on his mission.
And now we are 4 years after, and still some 60 members have not done it.
I would not move a millimetre without his view and without his judgment.
In one timeline, we'll meet and listen to Professor Ljungqvist's extraordinary stories behind some major scandals and his view of the fight against doping. In the other, we'll listen to celebrities, world-famous athletes, sponsors, media representatives and scientists giving their view of past, current and future doping issues.
That this is the first time, really the first time, that we are taking a blood sample from each participant.
The story will start during the Cold War, when the DDR, strategically and at the highest level, took the decision to initiate one of the biggest physical experiments on young athletes ever, just to gain political respect and power. Professor Ljungqvist's description of how he put pressure on Dr. Manfred Höppner, the leading architect of the DDR's doping program, in his own sauna, makes truly compelling listening. The story of the legendary 100-meter final at the Seoul Olympics in 1988 made Ben Johnson one of the biggest losers ever in sports, is told here, as are other major scandals in sports such as cycling, cross-country, as well as the major Austrian blood doping scandal at the Turin Olympics, baseball and more, that leads us to the extraordinary Balco scandal in California. A story that starts off with Special Agent Jeff Nowitzki investigating possible money laundering by the Balco laboratories and ends up with the biggest doping scandal ever in the US. WADA. The documentary will take a closer look at the work of this organization and hear voices from within telling about the fight.
Our first issue that we were asked to address was find a document that could pull all of the regulations from all the sports and all the countries of the world and put it into one, so that we can all understand, whether we're an athlete in China or an athlete in Chile, what the rules are and what will happen if I break them.
So this is the new instrumentation that we purchased and was just developed in 2010, luckily. So basically what it allows us to do is to detect something that an athlete could have taken a month ago.
As the WADA code forces top athletes around the world to at all times declare their position, and with the new widely debated blood passes becoming mandatory, we will meet athletes who tell how seriously they feel this has affected their integrity. Should doping be allowed or banned? We'll listen to both sides of the story.
This is not something that people should be afraid of. In fact, it's the more responsible position to try to invest into developing safer technologies that athletes can use.
Doping has become big business, and its use is growing amongst young people in gyms around the world. Here, control is non-existent and the dope is widespread.
Anything in excess is going to cause side effects. And of course, there's not a bodybuilder on this planet who has not had some sort of side effects from taking steroids, even some supplements.
World-leading physicians and scientists will help us describe a new and scary gene, as well as nano-doping scenarios with unforeseeable risks.
Athletes will be injured and will be damaged and be hurt far before, or long before we see any effect on real performance.
I guess people
Many questions have come up during the project, and more are bound to arise. But one thing's clear: the question of doping in sports will continue to fascinate and engage us all forever. And talking of time, he is today still traveling the world on his mission to fight drugs in sports. Not necessarily to track down the cheats in sports, but, as he says, to help kids and coming athletes to avoid the chemical shortcut to misery.
Excellent, merci beaucoup.